Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast, where we walk the cinema so we can talk the cinema. Today we will be discussing Cleo from 5 to 7.
Yeah, this is the most well-known movie by Agnes Varda, and maybe the best one.
Maybe it was my first and only Agnes that I've seen so far.
Okay, so the title is pretty explicit. We follow Cleo, short for Cleopatra, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. while she waits for her cancer results.
Yes, and it basically goes in real time
Yeah,
type filmmaking. Like there's
that's
not
kind
really any
of the
cuts.
gimmick of it. That's not really a gimmick. At least it's not used as a gimmick. It feels like it's just the way the movie works. It's not just something
Yeah.
to capture your attention with.
Yeah, it's not like a spectacle. It's more just along the lines of it is what it is.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start from the beginning, where
Yeah,
it's in color,
it is.
and she's getting a tarot reading in color,
Mm-hmm.
and then when we switch to their faces, it's in black and white. And my at least my interpretation of that is that when we pan over, it's a representation of reality. So reality becomes black and white because that's the darkness that we have from Cleo at that moment while she waits for the results.
I could see that. I honestly didn't really
I Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't really have a explanation as to why it was like that.
There's also been explanations that the lack of color allows you to focus on the emotions more than anything else, which it's a pretty bare bone type movie. It is about the emotions.
Yeah, because it does follow this. She's a singer. She's recorded a couple singles. And she's kind of vain at the beginning, or at
Yeah,
least
the beginning is vain, but I feel like
yeah,
she uses her vanity as a distraction, at least in that moment.
maybe, but I do think that like overall she feels before this, she was kind of a selfish
Yeah,
person, you know?
yeah,
Um
that's why from the beginning we see everything from her perspective, and it's all about her. Towards the end, it changes a little bit, but we'll get there later.
yeah.
She is vain and she uses everyone around her and she makes it about herself.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's very standoutish. Like she's wearing a polka dotted dress, so she stands out from everyone else in the streets. It's very apparent who she is because she's the only one in a polka dot dress.
Yeah, I guess an overall statement that I have about the movie is I just really appreciate whoever staged the scenes, I guess.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of scenes, especially when she's walking around Paris, that there's a
The
lot
tracking
going
scenes
on.
are insane.
Yeah, they're so good.
There's a tracking scene in the cab, the first cab where the woman driver, that the cab stops and the camera keeps moving. So it goes from the back seat where Cleo is sitting, and the cab stops, and the camera moves like the cab is not stopped,
Mhm.
and then it stops next to the driver. And I heard that one was a big pain to film because they had to have like a huge trolley around Paris to try to film that one.
I can imagine. But yeah, so she goes to meet her maid, I guess?
Like assistant, I guess.
Assistant. Okay, yeah, her assistant. And I think that the people around Cleo,
Mm.
I think since they know she can be dramatic or like it alludes to her being dramatic in the past, they kind of downplay her worries
Yeah, they
about
brush
the
it
test
off.
result. Yeah, because they're all like, "Oh, we're worried, but we don't really think it's going to be a big deal." Like, yeah, you might have something, but it's probably not cancer.
Yeah, and
Or
we see that just with other stuff that she does too. Like at the coffee shop, she asks for a coffee, and the assistant has to say like, "No, you don't need a coffee." You get jittery.
yeah,
She's she's just always they're always aware that she might be overplaying something because she likes the attention.
exactly. And then we see her go we get that cab scene where the woman is taking them back to Cleo's apartment, house.
Yeah, that cap scene also brings up. Well, I think it might be established before, but the whole movie has a lot of clocks throughout it, so you can actually keep track of the time, and they're all synced. And in the
Yeah,
cap
that's
scene, she actually puts the news on, and they say the exact time that it is. It's 5:20 or something along those lines. And
yeah.
there's multiple clocks throughout, and then when they leave the cab and they get to her apartment, she has an entire clock collection, as well as a kitten collection. There's a lot of cats in that apartment.
Yes, I loved the cats so much. Oh my goodness. I just saw the one at first, and then as the scene plays on, you see so many more.
There's a lot. There's
It
also a
was
lot of
great.
clocks, and they're all synced to the exact time that the movie's supposed to be, because every, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, they'll tell you what time the next segment is in between.
Yeah,
So you're always keeping track of time. It's very important because you feel like you're in Cleo's shoes, where every minute is is just waiting. You're just waiting.
yeah. And while they're at her house, we first see her lover come, and meet her, and he's doesn't have a lot of time for her. They kind of establish where he's always busy doing something and he only stops by to see her every now and then. And I think it they were trying to portray it as fine with it as long as he gives her attention. She's okay
Mm.
with it, I guess.
I guess I didn't think of this aspect too much, so you're the one bringing that up.
That's just what I saw. He's not a very important character because
No,
he's in
he
it
shows
for
up in kind of a flashback later on.
yeah, but he's not like a huge part of the story. He just kinda comes in and is like,
Yeah,
"Hello."
I think that might be more of a cameo. I
Maybe.
think that's Jean-Luc Godard.
Mm,
So I think that's just a cameo. And it's not
maybe.
supposed to be very important, but
But
I don't know.
he might have mentioned the first time, I think a major theme in this was just that a woman isn't sick if she still has her beauty or if she's still
Mm,
beautiful, you know? Where
yeah.
I think this movie was also kind of a commentary of
Because as much as she's vain, other people also use her for her beauty.
exactly. I think it was also a commentary on, like, French,
Yeah,
feminism at the time, you
she's
know?
supposed to be the ideal French woman of the 60s.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that he was there for that aspect, and then he leaves, and then we see her songwriters, the pianist and the lyricist, I think.
Yeah, the two goofs.
Yes, the goofs. I liked that scene.
It was a good song.
Yeah, and they basically ask her if they can play her a few songs, and she's like, "Oh, that one's boring," or "That one's too hard for me to sing." But then they actually get her to sing one of the songs, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
It is. And it's so well
It
shot too. Everything is so well shot. It's so well framed, and it goes so well with the score overall. But in this scene, it's perfectly the song. But overall, when she's having the tracking shots where she's just walking across Paris, I don't know the name of the streets. I'm sure Parisians will know the name of the street she's walking down, but they're synchronized to this beautiful score, and then they're so well framed where you never lose
mhm.
track of her. Even though sometimes she's in the middle of huge crowds, real crowds, because they're not extras.
Exactly. The framing and the tracking is just crazy, but especially in that scene where she's singing the song, it zooms in on her face.
Or it,
Yeah,
like,
it's
gets
the only
closer to her
zoomed in
face.
scene in the apartment, because all the
Yeah.
other scenes are actually very wide. You just be seeing the scene going on towards the center of the screen, as it should, but like to the left, you'll see one of the cats playing on the couch,
Yeah.
or to the right, you'll see one of the clocks, so you keep track of the time.
Yeah.
And that's the only one where they zoom in on her and you see her eyes. And
Because I think in that moment, because especially when it is zoomed in on her face, the rest of the background turns black, and it's literally just her in the shot. There's nothing
yeah,
else to distract you, and I think in the song she's singing, she starts to feel the pain because it is kind of a sadder undertone type song, And it overwhelms her because I think she starts to think about her own life and how worried she is.
Yeah, she kind of storms out afterwards.
Yeah, she talks about how horrible of a song it is and how she just wants to sing happy things or lighthearted stuff. And so she decides that she's just going to go be alone for a little while.
Yeah, but talking about the framing and the tracking in the middle of people that are not extras. I think there's barely any extras in this. Agnes has a huge background in documentary making, and she uses it a lot, even in this type of narrative film, where like we have the street magician when she's leaving the apartment, where he swallows a frog, and that was just a street performer that was there when they were filming. It's very documentary in the moment type thing. And when she's at coffee shops, because she goes to coffee shop, I think twice, and everyone in the coffee shop is just in the coffee shop. They're going in and out. Some of them are ignoring the cameras. Some of them kind of glance at the camera. They're not extras in any way. So they're doing this feature-length movie with just people walking in and out of the set. There's not a real set.
Yeah,
just the streets of Paris.
I have to appreciate her style.
It's so fresh.
It's also really fun because she obviously had to have some idea of what she wanted for her film. Yeah. She's very good at, I think, seamlessly editing stuff that is kind of brought to her just out of circumstance. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's very adaptable too.
Yeah, adaptable.
Again, that's the documentary background.
Yeah,
you got to be adaptable in that scenario. And this came out in the early 60s. It might have been 1961. And it's still incredibly fresh. Like, it's still a movie that feels so different from everything. So unique. And that's what you got to love about Agnes. Like, everything she does, it's hers. It's unique to her. And it feels extremely personal sometimes. I don't know if this one in particular is the most personal, but some of her work is very personal.
Yeah.
It's only her could do this. This is very much a Agnes movie.
Well, in the next scene, when she leaves the house, she ends up going to go visit one of her friends from before she became a singer, or she was just an aspiring singer at that point. And I think that her visiting her friend from the past is kind of like a way of showing that she's trying to, I guess, get back to like how she used to be, maybe.
Yeah, but we don't know if it's similar for her friend, because her friend does end up taking like the hat she bought, which I can only assume was a very expensive hat by the looks of it. And she does end up taking it, so it feels like a little bit taking advantage of her, and she doesn't pay for the cab or nothing like that. So
yeah, it does feel a little like the friend does feel a little exploitive, but
so I feel like, yeah, maybe on Cleo's side, she's trying to reconnect, but the friend just sees her as the new Cleo. Or Cleo, before she was Florence. Cleo's the stage name, so I guess she wants to be Florence for a little bit, but everyone still sees her as Cleo.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was kind of thinking, because she did kind of take on a persona, I guess, once she became Cleo, you know?
Yeah. And, with the clothes and the wigs and just everything. Okay. The diva attitude.
Right. And then since she goes to see her friend, the friend has her boyfriend that works in the movie theater. And they get to see this silent film, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, it's the fiancés of McDonald Bridge.
Yes. It's cute.
Yeah, it's good, but it's also commentary.
Yeah.
It's a commentary that works for the feature-length movie, because this is a short that came out individually as well. But it works for the feature movie because it's a commentary on how your outlook at life changes. The man with the sunglasses sees everything darker than without the sunglasses.
Right.
at the beginning you get a warning sign that says beware of sunglasses, and when he has the sunglasses on, he sees all these bad things going on, and then he takes them off and it sees it's not that bad. It's a commentary on the outlook, and it might be some hope for Cleo that
Yeah.
maybe if she looks at it less negatively, it might go better.
Yeah. I think it probably would. It does allude to the fact that she needs to look at it at a different way.
It's a good short, and you can watch it on its own, which is also fun.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch the whole movie just with the short.
As we're like winding down
I guess
towards the end of
that's
the movie.
when she meets Antoine. That's the third act.
Yes. So she goes to the park
Yeah.
and meets Antoine. And he kind of changes her, I wouldn't say changes her mind, but does give her that different perspective.
Well, it comes off as a little creepy at first, like intrusive, because she wants
Right.
to be on her own. And then he mentions that it's the first day of summer, which means it switches the signs from, you can help me, Eric, I think it's Gemini to Cancer. And when he says it changes to
Yeah.
Cancer today, and she's getting her cancer results today, she kind of freaks out.
Yeah.
And
Because
as
it's like
she
a battle.
freaks out, yeah, as she freaks out, then we get another title card, and this time it doesn't say Cleo; it says Antoine from 6 something to 6 something.
Yeah.
So for those couple minutes, it turns to Antoine.
Yeah. And we learn that he's a soldier that's fighting
Yeah.
in the Algerian War, which I don't know much about French
No, I have no
history.
idea.
I did do a little bit of reading and how it was based at the time. A lot of people thought it was a pointless war because they were fighting for Algeria was fighting for independence,
Mhm.
and there's just a lot of senseless death on both sides, but especially the French side. So,
But his inclusion is not. I don't think it's a commentary on war.
no, I don't
Because
think it's a
inclusion he's the first actual character that we get to know besides Cleo. Because the other characters in her life, we don't get to know them at all.
Yeah, but I do think that like him being a soldier and him like experiencing like tragedy did kind of give Cleo a perspective that there's more than just her in this world.
Yeah, but exactly, it's her actually listening to someone for the first time.
Yeah.
Because the assistant doesn't tell her anything, the musicians don't tell her anything, the friend, everyone just works for her or just using her. And this guy's the first one that's actually, letting himself be vulnerable, kind of. He says his feelings. He talks to her like she's normal because he doesn't know her.
Yeah.
So he's the change. That's the immediate change in the movie is Antoine being an actual person more than just a lackey for Cleo.
Yeah. And then he offers to go with her to the hospital to get the results if she accompanies him to see him off for him to go back to the fighting.
Yeah, it's going to be dispatched.
Yes.
And he's very calm about it being dispatched while she's still very nervous about the results. So they go to the hospital together first. Well, they have this train ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably one of my least favorite segments in the movie, I guess.
Yeah. It's a little... I
It just drags. I feel like it's the one that drags.
It does drag.
It's not boring. It tries, especially the soldier tries to keep it, fun, lighthearted, but it kind of doesn't stick for me. But it's not longer than 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. And then when they finally get to the hospital, the doctor's not there. So, Cleo has come to terms with the fact that she'll find out the results when she finds out the results.
Yeah, at that time, I think Antoine's presence really calms her down.
Yeah. And he does call her, he's the one that does treat her like Florence.
Yeah, he calls her Florence.
Yeah.
He doesn't call her Cleo, because that's not her real name. And he doesn't know her as a stage act. He knows her as the girl in the park.
Yeah.
So he treats her like she's the girl in the park, which I think is the different interaction that we were waiting for the whole movie, where she doesn't get treated like a diva.
Yeah. But then lo and behold, after she has already said that she'll, she's not going to let it ruin her day. She's not going to let it ruin her time. The doctor pulls up and tells her that she has cancer and then it should be a quick couple months of chemo, and then he drives off.
Yeah, and then it's 7 o'clock and the movie ends.
Yeah.
Because that's what the title promised.
Yeah. They have like a moment where Cleo, after she gets told the news, she tells Antoine that she's like, she doesn't feel as scared, that she's at peace, you know? And then they walk a few feet and then they look at each other and then it ends. It just, because it ends at 7 o'clock. There's no more to the story after that.
Yeah. It's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
I agree.
It doesn't seem like it. When maybe if we're talking about it, it doesn't seem great. Because I guess we don't say that anything's happening because there's no action to it.
No, it's very much, it is a slice of life type thing, but it is about this woman that is.
Yeah, it's a little bit influenced by cinema verite, but not overly. It's not the same methods, but it is just go along with what's happening, but there's a narrative. And it makes it feel more personal that way. It makes it feel more special too.
Yeah.
Because they're not in control of what's around it. It's not huge sets with extras. It's just they're just going along the street.
Yes. So on that note, what did you give it? What did you rate it?
9 out of 10. Very close to a 10. I keep thinking about it every time I watch it. Like, it's so close to a 10, but like I just can't give it a 10. I don't know why. Maybe one day I'll be nudged in that direction.
I also gave it a 9 out of 10, but was also leaning more towards the 10. And the only reason I didn't was because I feel like I need to watch it one more time and maybe in better conditions, I guess.
It was so enjoyable, though. Such a rewatchable movie.
Yeah, it doesn't feel too long. It's amazing.
It's amazing in the way that you could just pick up little things every time you rewatch it, because again, nothing is rehearsed.
Yeah.
So everything that's going on in the background, like, oh, look at that. Like, that person crossed the street while everyone else was waiting for the green light or something like that. Yeah, so don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're in a platform where you can leave a comment, do that. And we'll see you next time.